And we're getting word right now from Western Mexico, where a story you might expect to find on the business page has turned into a security operation. Because the avocado, that soft green fruit sitting in bowls across America, the one that shows up at nearly every Super Bowl party, in every deli, on every brunch menu, has just become the reason more than 1,500 soldiers and National Guard troops are now on the move through the mountains of Michoacan. And it started, of all places, an inspection point. Here's what we know this morning. In early August, the United States Department of Agriculture quietly did something it almost never does. It pulled its inspectors out. It halted the phytosanitary inspections that Mexican avocados must pass before a single truck is allowed to cross the border. The U.S. cited a non-specific threat to American interests in the region. No avocado leaves Michoacan for the United States without that inspection stamp. So when inspectors stopped working, the exports stopped cold. And within 24 hours, this stopped being a trade dispute and became something else entirely. On Thursday, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum ordered the deployment. The figure released by her government was precise: 1,557 personnel, 900 soldiers from the Mexican Army, 657 from the National Guard, moving under 2 military commands into 9 municipalities across the Avocado Belt. Their mission, according to the government, is to reinforce security in the growing areas, guard the packing centers, protect the highways the trucks travel, and, this is the key part, stand watch over the very inspection points where the American workers do their jobs. The whole apparatus of a national army, deployed to make one green fruit safe enough to inspect. And to understand why a government moves an army for a piece of produce, you have to understand just how much rides on it. More than 80% of the avocados eaten in the United States come from Mexico. Not most, the overwhelming majority. In 2025, those exports were worth $3.7 billion to Mexico, and nearly all of it flows out of a single state. Michoacan produces something like 75 to 80% of the avocados Mexico ships north, and it is one of only 2 states in the entire country certified to export to the American market, Jalisco being the smaller, more recent addition since 2022. And almost all of that fruit funnels through a single doorway into the United States. Roughly 70% of Mexican avocados enter the country over one crossing, the Far International Bridge in South Texas. So the flow narrows twice. Once at the orchard, where the inspection has to happen, and again at the border, where nearly the entire harvest squeezes through one bridge. Pinch either point, and the shells in Ohio, in California, in Texas, feel it. Now, why the inspectors? Why are American agricultural workers the pressure point in all of this? Because Michoacan is not a quiet farming valley. For years, this state has been one of the most contested pieces of ground in Mexico. Cartels operate here, producing drugs, trafficking them, and critically running vast extortion networks that reach into legal industries. And the avocado, precisely because it is so valuable, has become a target. Growers here have described paying protection money simply to keep operating. In one account tied to this crisis, a single producer said he was charged roughly 1 peso for every kilogram he exported, which on 90 metric tons a day adds up to more than $5,000 every single day, handed over just to keep the trucks rolling. That is the shadow economy sitting underneath the fruit in your grocery cart. It helps to know why people here call the avocado green gold, and why that name carries a darker weight than it sounds. The money the fruit generates has reshaped Michoacan's mountains, and not gently. Independent investigations have documented illegal deforestation, with pine and oak forest quietly cleared and replaced by orchards, and heavy water use in a region where water is already contested. In response, industry groups and the state government have built a certification program meant to keep fruit grown on illegally cleared land out of the export stream. But the same value that drives farmers to plant more trees is the value that draws the extortion. The forest, the water, the guns, they all sit downstream of one simple fact. This is among the most profitable things a hectare of Michoacan land can grow. If you're finding this story worth your time, take a moment to subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you the ones the headlines rush past. Because this is where the pattern comes into focus, and it's a pattern that's been building for years. This is not the first time American inspectors have become the flashpoint. Back in February of 2022, The United States abruptly suspended all avocado imports from Mexico after a U.S. plant safety inspector received a threatening phone call. One threat. The imports stopped for about a week, and the whole industry held its breath because the timing landed right around the Super Bowl, the single biggest avocado weekend on the American calendar. It was a warning shot, and everyone in the business heard it. Then came June of 2024, and this time it wasn't a phone call. 2 USDA inspectors were caught up in a road blockade in the town of Aranza, in the municipality of Paracho. They were, by multiple accounts, detained against their will and assaulted amid a local protest. The U.S. response was immediate. Inspections paused, and the State Department's Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory for Michoacan reissued. It took roughly a week and a visit from the U.S. ambassador at the time, Ken Salazar, before inspectors gradually returned to the packing plants. Each of these episodes ended the same way: a pause, a scramble, a resumption. And each one made the underlying problem harder to ignore, that the safety of the people who certify this fruit could not be guaranteed. So who loses when the line goes down? And who's really behind it? On one side, the losers are almost everyone in the legitimate chain. The growers, many of them small family operations, who watch fruit ripen on the tree with nowhere to send it, because an avocado doesn't wait. The packing houses, the truckers, and eventually the American shopper, because when 80% of your supply gets pinched at the source, prices at the store don't stay still for long. On the other side sits the source of the pressure, the criminal groups whose extortion and violence created the security vacuum that made the inspectors unsafe in the first place. That is the uncomfortable center of this whole story. The Army wasn't sent to fight over avocados. It was sent because the state could no longer promise that a routine inspection wouldn't turn dangerous. And notice what the official language is careful to say and what it doesn't. Mexican authorities have framed this deployment as preventive, tied to recent arrests in extortion cases, rather than a response to any single confirmed attack this time around. The U.S. Embassy, for its part, issued a security alert but did not spell out the specific nature of the threat. That vagueness is deliberate on both sides, and it tells you how delicate this moment is. Two governments, a multi-billion-dollar trade, in a region where the line between the legal economy and the criminal one runs right through the orchard. Which brings us to what's actually at stake from here. The troops are now positioned across those 9 municipalities, standing guard over inspection points that, without them, the Americans were unwilling to staff. The goal, as Mexico's government has stated it, is straightforward: make the conditions secure enough that U.S. inspectors are willing to come back and the exports can resume. But that goal exposes the real fragility underneath. An export industry worth billions, feeding the appetite of an entire country to the north, now depends on soldiers standing watch so that agricultural workers can safely check fruit for pests. That is not a stable foundation. That is a truce. And the deeper question hanging over Michoacan this morning is whether an army can solve a problem that an army wasn't built for. Soldiers can guard a highway and secure a packing center for a week, a month, a season. What they cannot easily do is dismantle the extortion networks that made the guns necessary in the first place. The quiet, grinding pressure of a peso per kilo that never quite goes away. Each time this cycle has played out, in 2022, in 2024, and now, the inspections have come back. But the thing that keeps interrupting them has not gone away. It has only waited. So the picture we're left with is this: 1,500 troops moving through avocado country, a fruit that generates more revenue for a country than most people ever imagine. 2 governments choosing their words with extreme care, and a single stubborn fact underneath it all: that the guacamole on the American table travels a road guarded by soldiers, through a state where the people who grow it, pack it, and inspect it have learned that their safety is never entirely their own to guarantee. The inspectors, for now, are meant to return under military watch, and the trucks are meant to roll again. Whether they keep rolling, and for how long before the next interruption, is the part no deployment has yet been able to answer.